Leveraging without liquidity is stupidity. In this episode, I'm going to address what is better than owning real estate. Now, I own real estate. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but you're going to get blown away with how I'm going to show you how savvy real estate investors and owners own their real estate. So my name's Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist, a retirement planning specialist, helping people optimize their financial assets for more than 4.5 decades. And I've helped many real estate investors optimize the liquidity, safety, and rate of return on their real estate, be it their personal residence, or maybe rental homes or duplexes or big apartment complexes or even commercial strip malls and so forth. And so I'm going to share with you in this episode some secrets in owning real estate and what's better than just owning real estate. I learned a long time ago that one of the key elements of prudent investing is liquidity, okay? Number 2 would be safety of principal, safety of where you're putting your money so that when the markets whipsaw and we go through gyrations that you don't lose when the market goes down, and then earning predictable rates of return. So when you own real estate, most people just think that you're going to get a return from 2 different areas. One would be if you're renting out the property, you get cash flow, you get rental income. Okay, that's good. The other would be from the real estate appreciation when you own it and it continues to go up in value. A lot of that appreciation, maybe 50 or 60% of it, is due to just the cost of living increase, what we call inflation. And so a lot of people say, well, it's smart to invest in real estate and own it as soon as you can by doing what? Sending extra principal payments against the mortgage, taking the cash flow and servicing the debt. And when you have extra money, hurry and send extra principal payments to the mortgage company. Well, I've learned some hard lessons in my life, and I'm going to share with you what savvy real estate investors do so that it's more than just owning the real estate. This is how money really works. So, as I indicated, the smart real estate investors understand how money works and how to leverage. So let's talk about what leverage is. And I said at the beginning, leverage without liquidity is stupidity. Believe me, I know that. Now, before I go any further, and let me just say that stay with me to the end of this episode because I want to gift you a free copy of my most recent best-selling book that's flying off of our warehouse shelves, and it will dive deeper into some of the concepts that I'm going to share with you here. Also, please subscribe, share, click like, post a comment. This channel, I post an in-depth answer to a financial question almost on a daily basis. So I'm passionate about helping people understand how to manage their money better. So if you're into real estate or you're thinking about it, a lot of times people will save up for a down payment and they will pay maybe 20% down and buy a property, and then they fix it up or whatever, and then they maybe turn it. They flip it because they don't want to be a landlord. Others, they love to fix them up and then rent them. And so the biggest problem that I've noticed is people sometimes, they get the rental income and hopefully it's enough to cover the expenses. When you own real estate properties, these are non-owner occupied rental income properties. There's usually 3 things that you write off on your tax return. One would be depreciating the property, okay? Because you can depreciate it down over, let's say, 27, 30 years to where it goes down to just the value of the land. That helps you on your tax return. You also get to write off any maintenance and repairs, and you get to write off the interest. But the big mistake I see a lot of real estate investors do is they put in a huge amount of the down payment, or maybe they pay cash, or they send the extra cash flow to try to hurry and pay off the mortgage, and they have no liquidity when things get bad, or maybe that apartment is empty or vacant. And then they scramble, and all of that equity they were building up goes down the drain in one fell swoop, especially in a recession like 2008, when many times people lost 40% not only in the stock market, but in the real estate market also. So let me show you how to protect yourself and what I've done to sort of double dip on owning real estate and making money in addition to whatever the rental income does or what the property does, whether it goes up or down in value. So what if instead of sending that extra cash flow, extra principal payments against the mortgage, you accumulated it over here on your balance sheet in your right-hand pocket? Now, imagine your right-hand pocket is your assets. And if you have real estate, you have an asset, the property, but you also have other assets that would be cash. When you combine your cash with the real estate by paying it off, you actually are cutting your assets often in half. When you keep that money separate, you'll actually get out of debt quicker. Do you know that I have blown away CPAs and tax attorneys when I show them that if you will set aside the extra principal payments, for example, when somebody considers taking out a 15-year amortized mortgage instead of a 30-year mortgage, if you'll simply take that differential between the 15-year amortized mortgage, which is a higher payment, versus the 30-year amortized mortgage, which is less, take that difference plus the tax savings you will achieve during the first 15 years of a 30-year mortgage. Don't spend it, don't consume it, but don't give it to the mortgage company. You're giving up liquidity when you really need it in case of a downturn in the market or you lose your job or it's vacant or whatever. You put it over into a fund compounding. Now, my favorite fund I'll share is what I call the laser fund, and it compounds tax-free, and I earn rates of return of 6%, 9%, 12%, and even 25% and higher. But I've been usually averaging around 9% for the last 4.5 decades. I want you to remember that. So as I do that, the money over here is compounding and growing, and it will grow to enough to pay off the 30-year mortgage in 12.5 years. Did you hear that? 2.5 years faster than the same money that pays it off in 15 years, and you're killing your tax deduction. You're redirecting otherwise payable taxes to get you out of debt quicker. But I accumulated over here because if I get sick or I get disabled or we have a pandemic or something happens or my apartment is empty, I have the wherewithal to just withdraw money. It's tax-free. And as I do that, I can keep the mortgage payment current. But those people who send it to the mortgage company and they get into trouble, they go, oh, well, I've got a lot of equity in this place. Well, I learned that lesson. When we have downturns in the market, okay, there's more supply than demand and the values go down. And you cannot access that money unless you borrow it back and prove that you can qualify. And when you need that money the worst, it's the hardest to get. I've learned that lesson. That's why I said leverage without liquidity is stupidity. Because leveraging is where you take the least amount of money that you can tie up in the property and you keep the rest of it over in a side fund, liquid, safe, earning predictable rates of return. Now, what did I mean by double dipping? So when I set aside the cash or I keep the money that I would be tempted to pay toward the mortgage, I accumulate it over here in the right-hand pocket. It's an asset, liquid, safe, earning predictable rates of return. As I've mentioned, I've usually netted cash on cash about 9.6%. Let's just round it down to 9. Now let's think about this. Most of my mortgages right now are around 4.5% or less, but it's tax deductible, especially if I own rental properties. It's tax deductible, whether it's in an LLC, a corporation, or just a Schedule E with my taxes. So if I borrow money at 4.5%, let's just say $1 million, and you can extrapolate down to 100,000 or 2 million or whatever. Every $1 million that I borrow for real estate, that I borrow at 4.5%, that's 45,000 a year of interest that I must pay, right? But I get credit on that on my taxes between federal and state tax. Let's say you're in a 33% tax bracket. So it doesn't cost you $45,000. You get $15,000 back in a 33% bracket, because you were able to write off the $45,000. So the net cost of a 4.5% mortgage is $30,000. So I'm paying $30,000 net out of this pocket, and I'm earning $90,000, 9% on that million over in this one. How much more is $90,000 than $30,000? Don't say 60. It's 300% more. That's a 300% return on employment cost. You're employing the money. It cost you 3, you earned 9. This is how money works. You will not only have enough money to get out of debt, but it will be there quicker, faster to be able to use, and you can leverage again and again. And this is what savvy real estate investors do. They are able to make money on cash flow. They're able to make money as the real estate appreciates, if it appreciates. But even if it doesn't, they make money based upon what is called the arbitrage between the net amount they're paying and the gross amount they're compounding their money tax-free. And oftentimes it's 100%, 200%, or 300% more than the cost of the funds. They're making money both places. That's double dipping. So what's better than owning real estate? Okay, controlling your real estate by having your money, your real estate equity, liquid, safe, so that when the property might go down in value, you don't lose. Because if the money's in the property, you will lose, I guarantee it. But if it's over here outside of the property and it goes down, you don't lose, you still have the money. You have an emergency fund. You can keep the mortgage payment current. You can keep your credit rating super, and you can get out of debt faster. Because anytime you want, you take the money out of here and you could pay off the mortgage if you want. But are you beginning to understand how money works? If you can earn double or triple the cost of the mortgage, especially net after tax, if you do the math, the difference will accumulate an extra $2.3 million on just $1 million property over a 30-year period. If you repeated the process and you leveraged on additional properties every 5 years, it's more than $10 million extra dollars at the end of the day. This is powerful. So that's what's better than just owning real estate. If this is intriguing you, I would love to gift you a copy of my most recent best-selling book. It's called The Laser Fund. This is where I accumulate my money for liquidity, safety, and earning predictable rates of return, because that's what LASER stands for, liquid asset safely earning returns. And in this book, it's actually 2 books in one. This side is about 200 pages, 14 chapters with all kinds of charts and graphs. But when you flip the book over, this is about 100 pages, 12 chapters with 62 chicken soup for the financial soul stories. One chapter here talks about how savvy real estate investors keep their real estate equity liquid, safe, earning predictable rates of return by using the Laser Fund. So simply click below, go to laserfund.com. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll pay for the book and I'll fire it out to you. If you like to listen and learn, watch and learn, there's other options there for you to get empowered to understand this better.